oh man, this is way easier. And doing a stand-up comedy set is a lot harder than just kicking it on the mic, having people on. So that doesn't make sense. He was hurt. He was probably, I don't think honestly, I wouldn't even say that his wife told him to quit the podcast. I think that it was his decision, and he feels like he made a sacrifice for his wife. Now, funny enough, I was like, who the hell is interviewing him in this? You know who's interviewing him in this? The girlfriend, wife, whatever of Colin Kaepernick. Yeah, the one that pushed him into that whole situation, taking that knee, ending his career. We've never heard his voice. I don't think I've ever heard Colin Kaepernick speak, to be honest. And we have not heard from him since. They gave him like a pity Nike deal. And then after that, Jay-Z said, all right, I'm linking up with Roger Goodell. Yeah, we're past that kneeling stuff. That guy served his purpose. Kick him to the curb. Now, Big Dog, Big Hove is in charge now. And don't worry, guys, I'm going to take us to the promised land. And by us, I mean him and his family. Nobody else. We're not involved in that. And later on in this interview, he talks about not wanting fame and feeling a little bit betrayed.
There's a lot of people's voices in your like talking in your ear, like she needs to do this, she needs to do that.
Keep your wife off the internet. Why does your wife have a microphone in her face? Do not allow your wife to start a mother podcast, bro.
Yes. And then I had to realize, like, she's the one that's actually strong and courageous, and the rest of us are like running and hiding and going dark and blah blah blah. And she's like, no, I know who I am. Go f yourself.
Yeah.
So
were you surprised that some people were telling you that she shouldn't be on social media?
The thing that surprised me is so many people ran and made videos when they have my number or they have we message each other on Instagram, and it's like, yo, you could have just asked me what really is happening. And then I realized this fame thing is a monster, man. That's right. And people want that badly. That's and they'll run and talk about you for views, even if you're friends. And that's where I'm like, man, I don't want that. I don't want to sacrifice the morality. I didn't get into this to be famous. I thought it was cool at the time. Now it's like, it is what it is. Y'all just want this fame thing more than anything. And I've realized it's addictive, and it can, I think, lure you in before you realize it. You're addicted to it, and you're saying stuff about, like, we're supposed to be really good friends, and you're saying stuff or letting stuff slide. And I'm like, this is, you're not a bad person. You just really want the fame. And you might be kind of broken if you've seen the other side of fame and you've experienced it and you still want it. There's probably something wrong with you. I don't personally want that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So keep in mind, this guy was on TV shows, and he's talking about, I didn't want fame. Dog, what are you talking? You pursued a career that has fame attached to it. I could understand. Oh, there you got my grill stuff. Thank you. Babe. Hey, the tongue. Babe. And people in music, because a lot of people in music, and maybe like, yeah, if you're performing arts is a little bit different. But if you're an actor and you said, I don't want fame, the title of actor comes with fame if you succeed at it enough to do it for a living. Music, it's a little bit different because producers, you could be a producer, you could be an executive producer, you could be a songwriter. So if you really don't want fame, you could fit into these roles. And a lot of people do. Like Louis Bell, who is one of the biggest songwriters, wrote most of Post Malone's hits and also a producer. That guy could walk down a crowded street in New York City and nobody would know who he is when he's written some of the biggest hits of the past decade. But if you're trying to be on TV and you start a podcast, yeah, you want to be famous. And it's not the fame, because he was famous a year and a half ago, but he wasn't thinking of ditching the podcast then. No, it's when the fame bit him in the behind, which is really just his wife destroying this business. And what he's talking about, he's definitely talking about comments that Andrew Schultz has made and him being the butt of the joke, which is, you are the joke. You're not the butt of the joke. You are the joke. And how could you not be? And he was talking about like, yo, I'm ready to burn this ish down. And that's what it is. This guy he's not in love. He worships at the feet of his wife. So if he feels like his wife could be telling him like, hey, look, you can do the podcast, because she's been posting. She's got no problem posting. She's been doing exactly what she's doing before this. Nothing has changed. She could tell him like, hey, Akash, it's okay. Just keep doing the podcast. And he's like, no, I cannot take that people are making fun of you. I can't do it, so I'm going to quit. It's disrespectful. My co-hosts, they're making snide remarks and jokes about you. You're my wife, and they don't know like the relationship that we had. So this is just, I can't take it. They disrespected you. So I'm going to leave the podcast. I guarantee you that's how this guy's brain works. So it's not even her. Like people are saying, oh, nah, she told him to quit. I don't think she told him to quit. The way that we've seen this guy move, nah, ready to burn down his whole career. Well, he already burned down half of it, which is the podcast. It makes no sense to cancel the podcast other than he was being bullied he was the punching bag for the podcast audience, and mainly their Reddit, which I want to read a comment or two from their Reddit, because this is a voice, especially after he quits. People are going to give their most honest thoughts. People might have probably just been joking on him and clowning on him, but didn't really want him to quit. But this one said, damn, end of an era. Say what you will about the Jasleen situation, but the pod isn't what it is today without Akash. I guess he's big enough now that he doesn't need the pod for his career, but the focus on career reasoning is an obvious spin. All relevant comics today have a pod. It's an easy bag, and it gives you an avenue to come up with material. I've seen Andrew Schultz use podcast bits on stage and just grow your following. Neither Akash nor Andrew's stand-up careers would be where it is without the pod. I'm not trying to pile on Jasleen, but it's a shame that her actions forced him to do this. Money and career aside, this podcast is as much his creations as Andrew's. Facts. And I can't help but feel that her recent comments about the Flagrant fan base sealed the deal for him to not return. Now, if you're asking like, yo, what the hell comments was she making? Well, the comments that she was making are as follows.
I just want to let you know, like, I know the periphery of Akash's fan base, which is, I will say, more of the podcast fan base. And I know a lot of people during like our controversy were saying like, oh, it's because of his fans. It's because of his fans. Like his comedy fans are not like that. It's more the podcast fan base that I don't think really resonate with him, because a lot of them are like really racist and right wing. I think like those of them are more like that. But yeah, anyways, I said like those peripheral fans, like they might come at us just because we're brown girls being opinionated and they don't like opinionated women. So then the brown...
Oh my God. Imagine you are hearing this, because she's talking about this. They've got quite a varied fan base, but this is, they don't want to hear two brown girls having an opinion. This is the funniest thing, because like I said, Myron Gaines is quite disliked by a majority of the internet. Like he's made comments, many different races hate him because they feel like he's made very disrespectful comments towards him. Politics, especially like left, really not even just left wing. Anything like center right and leftward, if you want to call it that, they are not too fond.
Introducing Subway's new fresh value menu. 15 different protein pack choices, all for under $5. With new 6-inch deli face, $3.99. Protein pockets, $3.99. And a 6-inch sub of the day, $4.99. Always freshly made, always available every single day.
Too fond of him. So people don't want him to win generally, and they're not jumping to agree with him on things. So if they agreed with this was the cause that united damn near every single human being on earth. That's why it was so nuclear and giga viral, because they're looking at it like, what the hell is it? They're just looking at the evidence. It was just a compilation. That's the thing. It wasn't like Myron talking about them, because Myron was talking about these guys for years and nobody cared. No, it was this compilation of what she said that people saw that and said, yo, that could never be me. Nah, that ain't me. Yo, that's crazy. and it was just a unified front that was the most apolitical, a-religious, just standard person thing you could possibly see and say, yo, this is crazy. That's all it was. And she's trying to spin it into something else when it's not. And if you're their fan base, you're going to get insulted by this because you're like, what the hell? This chick ruined the podcast because now this guy's not even on the podcast due to how viral this went. And now we have to get called these insults, which she's just throwing insults. Oh, but the guys that go to the show, they're not like that. How do you know they're not like that? They're probably making comments talking about you right then and there. They're like, yo, I bet she's in the background watching. The hell? You don't know. You haven't met every single person that's shown up to a show, but we're not even going to address what she's talking about or try to argue any of her points because it's clear she's delusional. She's just spoiled. She didn't make him. I cannot take any responsibility off of Akash. That guy is a grown man that is incredibly sensitive. And hopefully this should be great material. Every comedy podcast should be clowning this guy for getting bullied, internet bullied off of his own podcast. This guy helped start this podcast and he's a comedian. This guy's not built for it. He's not built for the game because let's just take a look at, maybe we got to give more respect to Adam 22 because number one, all that happened was that people played things that his wife was saying online. That's it. And they joked about it. Adam 22's wife was getting cracked by another dude on camera, publicly on the and he just takes those comments and keeps it pushing. And he's not even a comedian. I mean, granted, you could say like, yeah, he made money off of it, but Akash here is sacrificing money because he's quitting the podcast and he's sacrificing a lot of money. And when they put the company together, when they started the podcast, I'm guessing he was on the company. So I'm not too sure how that gets divvied up, but hey, that's something that they're going to have to solve. But yeah, like Adam 22 gets knocked out immediately, can't even put his hands up, and if I can't even throw a jab or not, doesn't get knocked out, he quits. But he loses that, and then he gets clowned on that. He's gotten clowned far worse than Akash ever has. Hell, who else can we think of? Academics has gotten clowned a lot more than Akash, and he still thugs it out. So Akash is just every single person has gotten clowned worse than Akash by their audience. We're not talking about going wide or virality. But him being a comedian, they're the ones that are supposed to take the jokes. Yet he couldn't take jokes from regular people that are typing up comments because those jokes were made at his wife. Maybe he should consider, hey, you were making jokes about other people's wives too. Not because they were other people's wives, but other people's husbands, wives, kids. And I'm not saying he should change his way, but how can you show up to this guy's comedy show and take him serious? You're just like, this guy's trying to crack a joke when he's the joke. He got bullied off. He got cyberbullied. You got to show it's actually the definition of what Tyler, the Creator, was talking about like 14 years ago. He's like, yo, just turn off the screen. Now, he did say it followed him outside and his family. I think it's the whole thing where it's like, yo, your family's seeing you as being the butt of the joke and your friends are letting you do this. But I feel like I'm droning on. I got my point across, which is this has to go in comedy history. Hopefully, like a Dave Chappelle or something clowns this guy. No, I don't even think he would even mention him. But hopefully comedians do the right thing and use being Akash as torching your ship and your empire on behalf, not even on behalf, because you think that's what your wife wants. But yeah, let me know what y'all think in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. And I'm going to see y'all in the next one.
Someone else will love them on Vinted. Just snap a pic, list your item. Easy. Once it sells, the buyer covers shipping. And with 0 selling fees, you keep every dollar. Sell what you don't wear. Earn cash to upgrade your style. With millions of users and low costs for your buyers, it's easy to start selling and earning. Start selling on Vinted today.
For a limited time at City's Memorial Day sale. Save on everything under the sun with up to 20% off, plus 60 months special financing. City Furniture, designed for love.
extraterrestrial technology.
Yes, personally.
Aliens.
So there has been activity by alien or non-human technology and or beings that has caused harm to humans. What I personally witnessed myself and my wife was very disturbing.
Or something else entirely still remains unknown. Drawing on declassified government files and insider accounts, this story goes far beyond just UFO sightings.
There's an object that another country has this object is so big that they had to build a building around it.
I naturally go, when I hear about sort of extra natural phenomenon, that's where I go to, is the Christian understanding that, there's a lot of good out there, but there's also some evil out there. And I think that one of the devil's great tricks is to convince people we never existed.
These are the deepest secrets that governments have allegedly killed people to protect.
Didn't we tell this 3 years ago that we kill people for this? Is she not listening?
So today, we'll be uncovering the murders and disappearances tied to UFOs and aliens all around the world, revealing once and for all the dark, hidden truths from space that the government is trying to bury.
What do you think is happening here? And do you think that this is connected or totally random?
Well, I hope it's random, but we're going to know in the next week and a half.
Get to the racks, get to that money, I wanna be rolling.
YouTube's guidelines. We aim to provide informative, factual journalism on a tragic event in the public interest that does not dismiss its seriousness. All clips are used under the doctrine of fair use for news reporting and analysis. Some points made in this video are opinions and theories. I'm not responsible for third-party information. If you want to watch my videos uncut and extended, go to patreon.com/traplawross, where you can get those for just $2. Also, you can now watch my new drops on Spotify, so go search me there. Here's the video. In June 2022, 34-year-old scientist Dr. Amy Catherine Eskridge reportedly life in Huntsville, Alabama. This is a city known as the Rocket City for its major role in sending the first man to the moon. However, nearly 4 years after her death, Amy's business partner Samuel Reed would post a message that reframed everything. He wrote, "I refrained from posting this for 4 years since my co-founder Amy Eskridge was killed." And he closed with saying, "I no longer fear their death threats. God bless you, Amy." And to support his claim, Reed shared screenshots of Amy's messages from the weeks before her death, where she detailed receiving daily threats and explained that it all started after a voice recording she made on her own phone about a major breakthrough in space technology. She would add that she felt she had crossed an invisible line and was now under surveillance after her discovery, going on to confess the terrifying belief that her name had now been placed on a kill list. Perhaps most disturbingly, Amy insisted that if she died, it would not have been by
Mother's Day in America, a time to honor all mothers on this special day. Your strength and care and
not have been by no matter what anyone else would claim. And while reports suggested that she did die from a gunshot wound, she had explicitly told Reed that she would never use her own gun for that use. But Sam Reed was not the only one questioning Amy's death, because before she disappeared, she had shared photos of mysterious burns and scars with colleagues, including former UK intelligence officer Frank Milburn. Moreover, in 2025, journalist Ross Coulthard alleged that Amy was murdered after being targeted with direct energy weapons.
I actually spoke to Amy Eskridge. I don't think she killed. I do think there's a very high likelihood she was murdered. She genuinely feared that somebody was trying to hurt her or kill her. And I've got photographs, harrowing photographs of burns that she allegedly suffered from some kind of directed energy weapon that she believes was directed at her.
And according to him, she'd been studying the same UFO technology that the US government had safeguarded since the 1970s.
It's quite obvious that the United States has been working on anti-gravity right through the 50s, the 60s, and then it all went dark. And the reason it went dark, I think, is because they had a breakthrough and it was all buried.
And a giant cover-up that a 2022 congressional hearing would reveal had actually indeed included murders. Do you have any personal knowledge of people who have been harmed or injured in efforts to cover up or conceal these extraterrestrial technology?
Yes.
Anyone been murdered that you would think that you know of?
I directed people with that knowledge to the appropriate authorities.
Growing up in Huntsville, Amy understood that city's strategic significance, and she considered it one of the most important cities in the United States.
I'm in Huntsville, Alabama. I know I've said that several times. We're the Rocket City. We're the biggest deal you've never heard of. Von Braun was here and we won the space race.
As well as one of the first places that enemies would target in a war with America.
Huntsville is like the hub. Like, we are number 3 on the first strike launch list. If first strike happens, 3 targets, Huntsville will be one of them. Alabama, this is Alabama dude in the deep south. Like, Huntsville is the hub of, if a nuclear weapon is coming to the US from Russia, how are we going to see it? Most importantly, how are we going to shoot it down?
After double majoring in chemistry and biology, she earned master's degrees in electrical engineering, physics, genetic engineering, and nanotechnology. And together with her father, a retired NASA specialist, she entered the secretive world of gravity technology, intentionally conducting her work publicly so her disappearance would be noticed.
I started it as a public-facing persona to disclose anti-gravity technology through, because I told Mark this. If you stick your neck out in public, at least someone notices if your head gets chopped off. If you stick your neck out in private, they will bury you. They will burn down your house while you're sleeping in your bed, and it won't even make the news.
As well as believing that the government would let her continue her research.
He was like, if you haven't had a U.S. government agent come to you and say, stop, shut the f*** up, stop, shut the f*** up. If that hasn't happened, they're going to let you do it. They're going to let you do it this time. He said it's been suppressed every other time. This time, they're waiting for someone to publish.
Yet the dangers of this research soon become apparent. During a 2018 presentation, a crowd member would reference the disappearance of another Rocket City scientist, Dr. Ning Lee, in what seemed like something of a threat.
So what about the innovator who's afraid of disappearing?
Well, that's a whole nother problem.
Even if you do it in public, it still don't mean that the inventor won't disappear for lots of reasons.
Like Ning Lee.
By 2020, Amy talked about coming home to find her windows had been opened and her belongings had been searched.
Didn't we tell this 3 years ago that we kill people for this? Is she not listening? What is she doing? She's still doing it? What? We told her we were going to kill her 3 years ago. She was gone to work. I noticed the window was still open. I go to work, I leave it open. I come back like an hour later and the window is closed. I walk into our bedroom and my panty drawer has been dug through and there are pairs thrown on the floor so that I will notice that my panty drawer has been dug through.
She would also detail the direct energy attacks that she alleged that she was experiencing.
I've been typing on this offline computer right here, super sensitive for the past several days, with this window right here to my right. And that window door right there to my left. And my hands have been burned to hell and back as I've been typing.
With her systems often being eased only when she blocked her windows.
I feel better immediately. Like, my hands still burn because there's damage.
Reinforcing her belief that she was indeed under surveillance and attack.
You can't hack the computer because there's no Wi-Fi card, but you can send microwaves in to get a 3D image of me typing on the keyboard, and you can reconstruct what I'm typing by microwaving me.
Moreover, fellow researcher Mark Sokol witnessed the attacks and described a bowl of popcorn in Amy's hand popping right before one while mysterious vehicles had idled outside.
Yeah, so when she was here, we were sitting on the couch and we had just made popcorn. We were going to watch a movie, and the popcorn in the bowl started to pop again. And she started to like scream and vomit. She's telling me they're attacking us. Parked across the street in where there was a parking lot. The car was parked not in a parking spot, but like facing the door.
And from here, things only got worse. In Amy's
Rent a furnished, private room with utilities and Wi-Fi for less than $150 a week with PadSplit. We already have more than 8,000 dedicated members. Just look at some of our member reviews. Ready to join? Fill out an application in less than 10 minutes, get approved in 24 hours, and be in your new home in 48 hours.
Real Money Games are live in Florida.
Real Money Games are live in Florida. Real Money Games are live in Florida. Real Money Games are live in Florida.
Real Money Games powered by Pass Motor Racing are now live in Florida. Only on Hard Rock Bet. Start betting with 20 cents. Win money your first 24 hours or get a games bonus back up to $100.
Real Money Games!
games.
Amy's final messages, she would reveal stalkers had been confronting her, apparently with intimate knowledge of the results of her recent MRI scans, and apparently they'd even attempted to get her dental records through an Israeli firm. From here, apparently the threats would escalate, and Amy received increasingly psychological and eerie messages, which she claimed were instructing her to end using nursery rhymes, while others tried to lure her into isolated areas late at night, which she recognized were apparent attempts to try and stage her death, repeatedly warning everyone around her that if she died, it wouldn't be decision. In her final weeks, Amy would claim that she had recorded a breakthrough discovery on her hacked phone, which she feared put her on a kill list. And after consulting with high-level insiders, including a retired general rumored to be William McCasland himself, she concluded that the danger came not from the government itself, but from private contractors and military companies guarding their billion-dollar profits. Tragically, by June 2022, Amy was dead just weeks after sending these warnings. And following her death, congressional testimony in 2023 alleged that a private aerospace company had indeed used energy weapons against her and killed her. By October 2025, journalists revealed that Amy had been quickly cremated without even staging an autopsy.
There's a whole lot of unexplained stuff. The difficulty is that her body was apparently cremated shortly after her death. There was no full coronial inquiry. I did make inquiries with local police about why there wasn't going to be a full coronial inquiry, and it was because of the finding.
And confidential sources claimed that the gun used to fire the fatal shot was actually in the wrong hand.
The scene where Amy was found, there were once again inconsistencies. She was right-handed. The gun was found on the left side of her body.
Finally, on April the 18th,
That's
2026,
what you
her
got.
father would publicly dispute the claims of a murder.
Richard Eskridge, he did not want to be interviewed, but he told me on the phone.
The one with the wheels look nice.
Yeah, no. So they both have wheels on it though. Which color though?
Online weren't convinced, and the suspicions only continued. But unfortunately, Amy
Protect them from the cats.
researcher died.
We just can't let it get too out of hand.
I like this one, but I feel like maybe it's kind of enclosed. But I also like how there's a lot of. That's the one I also like in that one too, because it's more open. It's less.
I would just look at the cause and effects. Like, is it gonna be so big that it's gonna be a hassle to clean, or is it gonna be less room, so more space more dirt because it's less room, or is the dirt kind of gonna be spread out so then it won't be as messy, or will it just be more places to get messy? You know what I'm saying? Just weigh the cost, make a list, take the two of them, you like make a list down the middle of the list, and then you put pros and cons of each one, and then whichever one has more pros, whichever one has more cons, including the cost and the shipping.
They're definitely a lot cheaper than the one at the store.
You can grab me back chips?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm trying to hurry up and finish this video.
And literally scrap metal vendors win the bid and melt it down for scrap metal and sell it.
Consequently, these research became both
I had to talk with this rabbit catching yourself, this wire thing. Just leave it in the bathtub for now, I guess, and put that over top of them so you can have water.
So that shit coming in now.
I just gotta figure out which one to get.
Them damn bugs had it good.
California reported sightings of wingless, tic-tac-shaped spacecraft performing maneuvers that actually matched these impossible physics.
These three videos, released by the Department of Defense, change the way people see what we can't explain.
The moment you mentioned UFO,
People bid on it, and literally scrap metal vendors win the bid and melt it down for scrap metal and sell it.
Consequently,
Oh.
No one cares.
was focusing on the gated replica. Yet many people online weren't convinced, and the suspicions of
I did make inquiries with local police about why there wasn't going to be a full coronial inquiry, and it's because of the finding.
And confidential sources claim that the gun used to fire the fatal shot was actually in the wrong hand.
The scene where Amy was found, there were once again inconsistencies. She was right-handed. The gun was found on the left side of her body.
Finally, on April the 18th, 2026, her father would publicly dispute the claims of a murder.
Richard Eskridge, he did not want to be interviewed, but he told me on the phone, scientists die also, just like other people.
Yet many people online weren't convinced, and the suspicions only continued. But unfortunately, Amy wasn't the only anti-gravity researcher to die under mysterious circumstances in Rocket City. More than 2 decades before Amy Eskridge had entered the field, another scientist in Huntsville, Alabama, was already breaking ground. After emigrating from China, Dr. Ning Li quickly established herself as a leading researcher in the city, while throughout the 1990s, she published revolutionary papers focusing on negating gravity, with findings that proposed technologies that could make vehicles hover silently in the air and move at incredible speeds in any direction, just like the rumored UFOs. As her work progressed from theory to application, Li founded AC Gravity to build her inventions herself. However, this drew immediate attention from the US government, and in 2001, she received a $500,000 Pentagon grant that came with strict secrecy conditions.
Still way cheaper than buying
by Amy Eskridge as typical suppression of technological breakthroughs.
Great data. You apply for more funding to test it more thoroughly, they cancel it. It goes to NASA divestment. It goes to the auction block. People bid on it. And literally scrap metal vendors win the bid and melt it down for scrap metal and sell it.
Consequently, Li's research became both groundbreaking, secret, and highly monitored. By 2003, the public last saw Dr. Li when she presented on the topic of gravity under the close supervision of a high-ranking army official, soon after sending cryptic messages that hinted at a major breakthrough. Yet from here, she disappeared from public life, and it would take more than 20 years to find out what happened to her. Emails sent to her from journalists didn't get any responses, while colleagues insisted she remained active, working on projects that were too classified to speak on. Then, in 2004, Navy pilots off the coast of California reported sightings of wingless, tic-tac-shaped spacecrafts performing maneuvers that actually matched Li's impossible physics.
These three videos, released by the Department of Defense, have changed the way many people see what we can't explain.
The moment you mention UFO, immediately what comes to mind are little green men, tinfoil hats. That's not at all what we're dealing with.
As soon as we look down, we see the whitewater, and then we see this little white tic-tac. It's pointing north-south, and it's just going forward, back, left, right.
Fravor says the F-18s began circling Fravor at 20,000 feet, and the so-called tic-tac only about 50 feet above the surface of the water.
And then it starts coming up at us. We call it two-circle flight, but it's coming up, I'm coming down. So it literally is aware we're there. There's no doubt, because it mirrored me.
This was something that journalist Ross Coulthard later linked to Lockheed Martin, the world's largest weapons manufacturer, alleging a secret operation hidden by the government and corporate interests.
The Tic Tac is Lockheed Martin technology. Why are we being lied to?
By 2008, rumors would spread, with physicists claiming that Dr. Li had actually defected to China.
She disappeared for several years. The people at the Pentagon who were in touch with her cannot reach her anymore. She is allegedly back in China, and the Chinese, Red Chinese, are putting a lot of money into these exotic projects.
But the government neither confirmed nor denied that story. By 2018, when Amy was being threatened using Dr. Li's name, Li was a ghost in the Rocket City scientific community. Then, after 20 years of silence in 2021, a brief obituary would reveal out of nowhere that Dr. Li had died peacefully at age 70, astonishingly, without ever leaving Huntsville, Alabama. It took a year and the Huntsville Business Journal tracking down her son to finally uncover the full story of her disappearance. This would reveal that her public absence had actually begun with a tragic accident in 2014 when she was struck by a car on the University of Alabama campus, leaving her with permanent brain damage and an Alzheimer's diagnosis that abruptly ended her groundbreaking career. Tragically, her husband of 46 years had witnessed the crash at the moment of impact, suffered a serious heart attack, and died the following year. This left Li's son George to care for his mother in isolation for 6 years. And for a few years, this was the accepted narrative until her own colleagues questioned the official account, because Jim Landreth would point out that neither police nor
don't allow you to order
university
shit off
ever
Amazon.
documented the accident.
Off
So
your
today,
card.
I called them. I got through to their records keeper, and he said, no, there is no no record of it.
Something about it that'd be
There-
right there.
and it was not responded to by them.
The
or their
address or something
departments.
that would show
Emphasizing that the 25-mile-an-hour campus limits made such a crash pretty unlikely. Furthermore, discussions in scientific circles would suggest that Lee may have been battling cancer, and her colleagues corroborated that her breakthroughs were far more advanced than NASA's projects.
She did make claims that she was getting what she called an AC gravity effect, right? That no one else, no one else had gotten those kind of results. She had apparently gone further than NASA had gone with her research.
She claimed, yeah.
While noting that if Lee had attempted to patent her discoveries, the government likely would have blocked her.
If she had
Sell them on Vinted. It's so easy. Take clear pictures, add a description that will seal the deal, and make your sale with 0 fees. Earning extra cash is really that simple. 1 pair down, just 5 more to go. Download Vinted and start selling today.
if she had discovered something, maybe she was going for a patent or some kind of intellectual property rights.
The DoD captures technology that it likes, and makes sure that it doesn't escape into the wild. Even if you don't quell it, you make sure that it stays in-house.
To this day, the details of her research remain classified, and even basic funding information would be withheld by the government. Ultimately, though, while Dr. Lee's gravity-defying research was being buried in Huntsville, the man at the very top of Lockheed Martin was also not safe once he decided to tell the truth. On May the 28th, 2018, Dr. James T. Ryder reportedly died, yet the only public record of his passing was a sparse Ancestry.com listing noting his name, birthplace in Chicago, parents, and death in California. Despite this, Ryder had spent over 40 years at the heart of America's defense industry, eventually rising to be a vice president of Lockheed Martin, the world's most secretive defense contractor.
There is a place where we imagine the impossible, where the powers of machine and nature become one.
During his tenure, Ryder oversaw the nation's most classified projects, including Skunk Works, Lockheed's division responsible for top-secret aircrafts.
Are any of you willing to name specific gatekeepers within the root cell of the UAP-SAP Federation?
Well, one of them was named Dr. James Ryder at Lockheed.
Moreover, his work laid the technological foundation for NASA's Artemis spacecraft for the 2026 moon mission. Over decades, he earned the trust to access some of the country's deepest secrets, yet few outside of his inner circle knew the full scope of his work. Then, in 2008, Ryder stepped into extremely dangerous territory. At the same time, a small group of senators and intelligence officials had quietly been investigating UFOs. And in his capacity as vice president of Lockheed Martin, Ryder made a startling proposal when he identified a facility where Lockheed held material from 1950s UFO crashes, offering to turn it over. Importantly, the facility was linked to the roots of UFO secrecy, which many people trace back to Roswell, New Mexico in 1947, where U.S. Army forces recovered strange debris, first calling it a flying disc, before quickly retracting the statement and claiming that it was from a secret balloon project.
Well, the whole thing started in July 2nd, 1947. That was the first crash.
First crash of an alien spaceship.
Of an alien spaceship. July 6th is when they recovered it and sent it to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. July 7th is when they held the press conference and told the people it was a weather balloon, which the press bought hook, line, and sinker.
Over the years, some whistleblowers have suggested the material wasn't just balloon wreckage, but evidence of non-human technology that the government had then attempted to reverse engineer.
I was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program.
Consequently, Roswell became a turning point, leading to a classification system that was so secret, entire programs were hidden from public oversight.
Recent sightings are in no way connected with any secret development by any department of the United States.
And according to whistleblowers, even from presidents themselves,
I just don't see any reason why our government should be hiding it. And I don't like going into a meeting and an unelected bureaucrat tells us that the president is on a need-to-know basis. To me, that should be very telling to America that there's a lot more going on just behind the scenes than we're aware.
So it was this material that was originally controlled by the CIA's Science Division, with Ryder's request to access it being personally blocked by the division's director. According to reports, it was one of the few times in decades that Ryder actually feared for his life. 3 months later, he had officially retired from Lockheed Martin. Yet after retiring in 2011, Ryder made a choice that may have cost him dearly. Rather than stepping aside quietly, he began funding private research, and by 2017, he was speaking publicly about evidence of aliens that spanned tens of thousands of years.
The top there are lots of beings. I don't know what to call them.
Yeah,
You can't call them humans. There's lots of beings, things, look like alive. They have eyes and noses. They sure look like some of the space people you see in UFOs sometimes. You'll see more of those. And below that, there are all these drawings. And if you're a UFO enthusiast of that type, there's your first UFO, 42,000 years ago.
In one revealing account, he even described a UFO encounter.
Oh, that's right, working in a forest. Yeah, where the investigators were sent to really go study it, because it was still there. And to their surprise, they did see a bright object that appeared like a UFO. And they tried to touch it and reported it as metal.
These are scientists.
These are highly trained technical people. What I did in that case is ask the question to the investigators. Go back and ask them a different question. Don't ask them a different question.
Something a pain in my butt.
Ask
They
them,
want me to verify
did
my
they feel like
payment
there was a
information.
pressure on
It
their hands?
says there's an issue with it.
And did the pressure get greater? What they felt was that the closer they got their hand to the light, the more resistance until
Every
they
time I
reached the point
verify, it
that
says
the
you're
light
good to
was
go, and
blowing
then
around
when I go
their
back to
hand and
Amazon,
they
it
could
says
not
no.
make their hand go any further.
Claiming that they used telepathic communication to transfer thoughts between minds and suggesting that that was a real thing.
Is there telepathy? Absolutely. I know there's telepathy. It works just fine.
Mother's Day in America. A time to honor all mothers on this special day.
Maybe just see where the actual website is and go to the actual website that actually sells the clothes. Shit. Baby, no, you
As you
wasn't.
raise children in loving homes where they can flourish and grow. You bring dedication and excellence to your career while remaining deeply devoted to your family's Christ-centered life. You balance Lily.
Is there telepathy? Absolutely. I know there's telepathy. It works just fine. My friends who did some of the other things, and now their work's been published. And they did the first work some 40 years ago. Dr. Paul's one, Dr. Targ, who's worked for me for years, is another one. It's fun being able to see these.
After decades in secrecy, Ryder told an audience how liberating it felt to finally speak freely. But tragically, just 1 month after that talk, Ryder was dead. His Ancestry.com obituary listed no cause of death. There were no public tributes after 40 years of working with Lockheed Martin. He received no recognition in scientific journals, no alumni notice from his university where he earned all 3 of his degrees. He just passed away a month after speaking publicly about alien technology, and that was the end of the
They
conversation.
don't sell much like that. They sell that plastic crap.
In June 2022, NASA took a huge step that would have seemed unimaginable just years earlier. At that moment, the agency announced it would formally study UFOs, signaling that the conversation could no longer be ignored. And then by July 2023, attention would shift to Washington, where 3 military veterans delivered explosive testimony during a historic congressional hearing. First, former UAP Task Force lead David Grush alleged secret government programs existed that had recovered non-human crafts and even alien bodies.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
Next, retired Commander David Fravor described the 2004 Tic Tac encounter, an event that defied known physics.
The controller told us that these objects had been observed for over 2 weeks, coming down from over 80,000 feet, rapidly descending to 20,000 feet, hanging out for hours, and then going straight back up, for those who don't realize, above 80,000 feet in space.
Meanwhile, pilot Ryan Graves reported seeing strange objects almost daily off the Atlantic coast.
After upgrades were made to our jet's radar systems, we began detecting unknown objects operating in our airspace. During a training mission in warning area Whiskey 72, 10 miles off the coast of Virginia Beach, 2 F-18 Super Hornets were split by a UAP. The object, described as a dark gray or a black cube inside of a clear sphere, came within 50 feet of the lead aircraft and was estimated to be 5 to 15 feet in diameter.
Together, they warned that these objects posed risks to flight safety and national security, and additionally claimed that whistleblowers faced retaliation for exposing the truth.
I call it administrative terrorism. That's their quiver, their tool in the toolbox to silence people, especially the career government service cares about the career, cares about their clearance, the reputation to climb the ladder, and when you threaten that career path, a lot of people back off.
Then, just 4 days later, under the cover of the ongoing media storm, a 59-year-old NASA scientist named Michael David Hicks would die quietly in California.
At the time, his death barely made headlines. But now, nearly 3 years later, there is renewed interest in what happened to Michael David Hicks. Why? Hicks, a NASA scientist who spent decades studying asteroids and deep space, died in 2023 at the age of 59. No public cause of death has ever been released.
Importantly, Hicks was no minor figure, as he had just spent 25 years at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the center that built and operated America's robotic space missions. Moreover, while other NASA centers focused on astronauts, JPL was sending rovers to Mars, and over decades, Hicks earned a reputation as a leading comet and asteroid expert. Crucially, his work played a key role in DART, where NASA demonstrated that it could knock an asteroid off course to protect Earth. Furthermore, through NEAT, he spent decades tracking asteroids and comets that could threaten the planet, placing him at the critical intersection of space exploration and planetary defense. However, neither his obituary nor memorials provided a cause of death, and similarly, no public autopsy record was ever found. Consequently, just as Washington was consumed by talk of aliens, one of NASA's most experienced observers was quietly buried. Then, 3 months later, NASA released its final UFO report, stating that it found no evidence that aliens or UFOs existed.
Based on our current findings and methodology, that we find no evidence to suggest that UAP are extraterrestrial in origin. And previous work from Yarrow has shown that most events are explainable as planes, balloons, drones, weather phenomena, and instrument features.
In the months following Hicks' unexplained passing, the pattern of silence would continue, culminating nearly a year later with the equally puzzling death of another top researcher at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory.
Remember I did, and then they decided to backfire?
Nearly a year after the mysterious death of Michael David Hicks, another NASA scientist quietly died in Los Angeles. This time it was Frank Werner Mywald, a longtime principal researcher at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. For nearly 3 decades, Mywald had been a leading figure at JPL, developing advanced satellite technology used to study Earth and other planets. Then in June 2023, just 13 months before his death, his work shifted towards one of science's biggest questions, whether life exists beyond Earth. Notably, he was leading breakthrough research to help future missions detect signs of life on worlds like Europa.
The most exciting thing about Europa can be summarized in one word: water. Now think about all the water on Earth.
Exactly.
And double. That's what we think is on Europa.
That's why I tried to explain to them, but they're not even caring.
All now good to go. The legendary Club Citgo app offers magical savings on gas and so much more. Fuel up at Citgo and you're good to go.
We think is on Europa.
You need to go there to explore it, to understand, is this place a habitable environment that could potentially support life?
Enceladus.
There's a lot more to Enceladus than meets the eye. It's an active, icy world with jets of water vapor pouring out from its southern hemisphere. What would be incredible is a probe that could either make its way into Enceladus' ocean somehow, or at the very least, search the plumes for signs of life.
And Ceres.
The possibility of saline oceans existing beneath Ceres' surface leads to another fascinating proposition. That Ceres is currently in a state close to what Earth was like
before life sprung forth.
Some of the most promising places in the solar system for extraterrestrial life. Yet quietly, Mywald died at 61. Despite his role as a JPL principal, an honor reserved for scientists with exceptional contributions, NASA issued no public comment on his death. Moreover, no cause of death was ever given, and reports indicated that no autopsy was performed too. As a result, Mywald's death passed with barely any notice, even as his work pointed towards one of the most profound discoveries in human history, the existence of aliens. Before U.S. Army Green Beret Matthew Liebersberger's name entered this story, the American military was already on edge. Back in 2023, alleged Chinese spy balloons crossed the U.S. airspace with no clear explanation.
When one of these high-altitude surveillance balloons entered our airspace over the continental United States earlier in the month, I gave the order to shoot it down as soon as it would be safe to do so. The military advised against shooting it down over land because of the sheer size of it. It was the size of multiple school buses and posed a risk to people on the ground if it was shot down where people lived.
And soon after, unidentified objects were shot down over Canada and Lake Huron as the Air Force scrambled jets. Even then, officials only offered vague descriptions, calling them small metallic balloons, yet pilot radio chatter showed that even those tracking the objects were struggling.
You had a hickey on your neck in this video. You mean you don't know? Who gave it to you?
Then, just a year later, New Jersey residents began reporting large, bright drones hovering over their neighborhoods at night. And as the frightened spread, so did the fears that something more serious was happening. Although agencies said that these objects posed no threat, the lack of answers only deepened fears that secret technology and foreign weapons were being flying over America.
SUV-sized drones in New Jersey. Dozens of reports. Seen near military bases, armories, civilian areas, over people's houses, properties owned by President-elect Trump. The FBI says they've been investigating it for a month. A month? But many, like my next guest, say the response has been tepid. What could they be, and how is this so hard to figure out? Either the government
What'd you say, CJ?
know anything, or the government is in a position.
You say mama?
It's an embarrassment.
You say dada?
The state of New Jersey.
You say
While
dada?
tried to guess, some people with high-level clearances claimed that they knew much more. One of them would attempt to send a loud public message. On January the 1st, 2025, a rented Tesla Cybertruck drove up to the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas and exploded outside, killing the driver and injuring 7 other people.
This was the shocking moment a Tesla Cybertruck exploded outside of Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas. The blast occurred on New Year's Day shortly before 9 a.m., killing the driver who was inside the vehicle. At least 7 people nearby also suffered minor injuries.
At the same time, a separate truck attack in New Orleans raised fears that the 2 incidents were connected. And at first, the similarities were hard to ignore. Both suspects had served in Afghanistan during the same period, spent time at Fort Bragg, and rented their vehicles through the Turo app. Even so, investigators called the overlaps unusual, but not enough to officially connect them. Then attention turned to the Las Vegas driver, a 37-year-old Army Green Beret named Matthew Liebersberger, who authorities said shot just before the blast.
We also discovered through the coroner's office
You also wanted me to do that.
had sustained a gunshot wound to the head prior to the detonation of the vehicle.
Inside the Cybertruck, investigators found fireworks and fuel as part of the explosive device. Yet one detail stood out. Matthew's passport and military ID perfectly survived the fire, while his entire body was burned beyond recognition.
Among the charred items found inside that truck were 2 firearms, both purchased legally, a number of fireworks, a passport, a military ID, and credit cards. Investigators say the driver's body is burnt beyond recognition.
At first, the blast looked like an act of terrorism, until attention turned to a message that Matthew had sent 2 days earlier. Before the explosion, Matthew sent an email to Army intelligence veteran Sam Shoemate, who later read it aloud on the Sean Ryan Show. In that email, Matthew claimed that he had a top-secret clearance tied to the U.S. government UFO program. And on top of that, He asserted that the US and more recently China had developed drones powered by secret gravity-based propulsion. He then alleged that the late 2024 drone sightings over New Jersey and the East Coast were actually Chinese weapons launched from submarines. Finally, Matthew framed these weapons as the biggest threat to national security and described the Tesla blast as a wake-up call. Yet after receiving the email and the ongoing investigations, Sam Shumate noticed several strange discrepancies. By all accounts, Matthew was an exemplary Green Beret with no known mental health issues.
Special Forces, he just got done with Team Sergeant time. He's a very qualified and very capable Green Beret. Everybody I've spoken to, his old team leader, acknowledged it.
Okay. It's 60 inches wide.
Said he was fine.
For that,
Nothing out of place. His mental state was not something that anybody was concerned about. His ex-girlfriend posted photos of him bragging about how he got a Tesla and all this other stuff. So stick with me here.
Then after the explosion, Matthew's signal safety number allegedly changed. On top of that, Shumate questioned why a Green Beret trained to build far more destructive bombs would only use fireworks and gasoline.
So he loads up a Tesla knowing that it's gonna, not explode like he wants it to with fireworks and a bunch of other junk when he can make a car bomb that's gonna level this place.
Then Sean Ryder added another strange claim, reporting that a military official told him that Matthew's DNA did not match his son's.
The PA officer sounds like almost jokingly said, which I don't know why you would joke about this, said that, and between us, they wanted us to know, obviously, that the DNA with his supposed child was not a match. And so I think what they were trying to do is basically make this out to be, this is why this happened. He got bad news that's not his child. So that's why he did it.
Taken together, these claims fueled speculation that Matthew might actually still be alive.
You get a Tesla because you know it can drive itself up to the hotel, the Trump Tower. You put a body in it, roll it up. It's already burned up. Or it's already shot, excuse me. You don't want to kill anybody because that's not the message you're trying to send. You're not trying to level the tower or kill a bunch of people. So you load it up with fireworks and a bunch of junk to send a message. And we know that his signal number or his signal safety number changed. That can't be done unless you're inside that signal account and did what he did to send a message to expose this stuff. And he's still alive out there somewhere.
Even American UFOologist Dr. Stephen Greer suggested that the case was indeed linked to UFO disclosure efforts.
So he wrote this manifesto that they're sort of